Welcome to the Interzone Roadmap Pitstop September 2021 edition. This is a bonus monthly show that answers that burning question in your mind: what is rolling out now for SharePoint and related technology in Microsoft 365? I'm Mark Cashman, Senior Product Manager on the Microsoft 365 marketing team, here to set the ongoing record straight. This month, I talk with Sam Roy and Raagul Manoharan, user experience designers on the broader OneDrive and SharePoint team who focus on the new Viva experiences. You'll hear from Sam and Raagul providing insights into the new Viva Connections mobile experience that's delivered through Teams and how they went about designing great UX and how to get it, once enabled, from the Teams store and desktop and mobile experiences. Beyond Viva News, we'll focus on everything that landed this month, a few related items, and the always fun teasers looking into next month. This podcast is your 30 minutes to roadmap and run ahead and stay ahead of the ever-curving Microsoft 365 roadmap. All right, it's time to kick back and get informed with everything that released for SharePoint and related technology in September 2021. We'll start with employee engagement, those things that you do one-to-many to broadcast your word, your information, your video, your site, your pages, your everything out across the intranet, and to keep it an engaging experience for everybody. The first one up is a pretty big one, and it's what we will talk with Sam and Raagul later. But in the broader scope of everything for around Microsoft Viva Connections is now in public preview, which means some of the parts that were previously released, of course, are there and supported, and there's some new components coming. Just to set the groundwork, Viva Connections, which is part of Microsoft Viva All Up, is your gateway to a modern employee experience. The Viva Connections app incorporates a customizable dashboard, the feed that we'll talk about, and relevant resources all in one experience inside of Microsoft Teams, desktop, and what's really new, the mobile app. This public preview release includes the ability to set a SharePoint home site from the SharePoint Admin Center. You can create, author, and manage a dashboard from the home site. You can use video news links to communicate announcements, use the dashboard and feed web parts on the home site to push in more information, and you can brand the Viva Connections app for desktop and mobile experiences for Android and iOS. There's a lot that comes with this next wave of innovation for Microsoft Viva Connections. I'm going to hold off on a little bit more information because we're going to get that from Sam and Raagul in just a little bit. If you haven't yet implemented Microsoft Viva Connections, probably is already half done if you're leveraging a lot of the SharePoint capabilities, and a lot of the new things that you can now do make it an even richer experience for all employees as they engage on the internet, intranet, inside of Microsoft Teams. Next up is an update on the video playback experience for videos when you're in OneDrive and SharePoint experiences, commonly pages or directly in document libraries. Internally, we call this a one player because it's truly crafted by the Stream and the OneDrive team, designing a universal video playback experience across Microsoft 365 apps and services. So, ready player OneDrive? No. Ready one player drive? Drive one player ready? Whatever it is to convey in the silliest of ways, this month brought 3 really nice improvements to this one player experience when you're watching videos throughout Microsoft 365. You can now pop out, which allows you to launch the player from an embedded experience into a more immersive viewing experience. We've also added support for playback speeds, which is a highly requested feature, as we know, and it is great from a use case experience in when you're watching Teams meeting recordings on demand, ones that are now saved in OneDrive and SharePoint. You'll be able to change the playback speed from 0.5x, which slows everything down if someone's talking fast, up to 2 times, aka saving time to catch up on important meetings. At 2 times speed, it goes really fast, but it keeps the pitch really good, not too chipmunky, if you know what I mean, and all the while saves you time. Last update to the one player experience, you can now skip forward and back. You'll see buttons that allow you to go forward 10 seconds, backwards 10 seconds. If you heard something but didn't quite hear it, just jump back, get the information, move on. So a lot of great experiences when you're working with videos, and it's now coming to wherever you experience those videos. Last, for our employee experience section, we have new improvements to the text web part when you use it in SharePoint pages or news articles. We're adding the ability to paste images directly into the text web part so it minimizes distance between the image and the related text. Plus, you can wrap the text around images like you would do in other Office applications. Authors will be able to align images to the left, right, and center. We're also addressing feedback on the text line spacing by reducing the line spacing between header and body text and in between bullet points, saving you that space, especially when you've got a lot of rich, dense information. All up, it is a nice update to the SharePoint text web part, which may need a new name. I'm thinking maybe image hugging text web part. Yeah, that's a good one. I think I'll be able to get that through the Microsoft 365 branding team, no problem. Yep. Okay, that's me holding my breath. I will try to push it. We'll see how far we go. Just kidding. Let us move on to talk with some of our program managers, specifically some designers on the SharePoint team. Let's focus now to hear from Sam Roy and Raagul Manoharan, who are from our Viva Connections design team. We are now going to be talking with Sam Roy and Raagul Manoharan, and they are from our Viva Connections design team. And we're going to be talking a little bit about the design aspects of Viva Connections. But Sam and Raagul, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having us.
Sam, if I can start with you, can you just tell us a little bit more about what you do at Microsoft and some of the journey that you had getting to where you are?
Sure, Mark. I am working as a UX designer at Microsoft IDC, and our team here is focused on building employee experiences. As a UX designer, most of our work is related to working with researchers to understand what is the customer need that we need to solve, and then working with the PMs to understand the business needs, and then also interacting with the customers to validate our designs, making prototypes, and then I think a major part of it is collaborating with a lot of design teams, and this is what we have been doing in Viva Connections as well. We have been closely collaborating with a lot of different Microsoft teams like Yammer, SharePoint, Stream, to build the cohesive employee experience inside teams.
And Raagul, can you give us a little description of, we know a little bit now through Sam what you're working on, but what your role specifically is here at Microsoft?
Sure, Mark. I work as a UX designer, as Som said, alongside with him in the ODSP UX design with IDC. And our team has been focused on building the whole employee experience for the last 2 years. And during the pandemic, it has become more important for every employees to connect remotely with their leaders and reach out to the employees and building the whole sense of company culture. We've been heads down all this while trying to build this corporate communication piece for Viva Connections, which we are calling it as a feed tab. My work majorly involves understanding the customer feedback that we've gotten so far and trying to sort of translate them into product goals and business goals, and then see how we can sort of meet in the middle and build a fantastic experience that we're proud to release coming GA.
I think anytime I've heard the word Viva these days, besides the excitement and some of the exposure that it's getting and getting everybody interested, it also means here at Microsoft a lot of people working together, and that's across all of the disciplines of dev, design, planning, and it's really nice to see it coming together. If we can start to narrow in on this month's feature, the feature that you both work on and have released, can we start with some of the common use cases that the Viva Connections mobile was designed for? Just give a sense of what people, get a sense of what it is and how people will use it.
I think when it came to Viva Connections Mobile, our approach has always been mobile first, this specifically to focus on the frontline workers. And it was a result of a feedback that we've been hearing from the customers that it becomes slightly difficult to install several different apps for several different purposes. And that's how the Viva Connections came into picture, where sort of it answers that problem of having all corporate communication in one service. And more importantly, we wanted to create this particular experience within teams so that we can reach the employees where they already are. Let's talking about some of the common use cases that we started off when we were building the whole Viva Connections mobile piece that was based off the research. Was the first one was the users or the customers using the feed, they always want to stay on top of the company updates and all the conversation that's happening around those news. And which means having access to the latest and greatest news across each endpoint collated in one surface was very important. So that is what Viva Connections feed is optimized for. For example, you can take in a news that's published by the organization about the hybrid workplace system. And there's a subsequent conversation that's happening on Yammer about who's going to be coming in, what are the requirements of getting into a slot group. So those two communications are happening in one surface in Viva Connections, so the users would be able to sort of catch up on all of that just by using the Viva Connections app. The second powerful use case was taking the whole engagement with the corporate communications a two-way street and sort of making it an active two-way street. By that, I mean the ability for the users to engage with the content, not just consume it passively, meaning sharing it with it, reacting to it, and saving it. So we wanted to sort of like leverage on that fact that we are creating a feed, and then the feed is a very established modality of social engagement. So we wanted to leverage on that fact where the corporate communications are sort of they are fluidly flowing in a feed format, and the users can engage with them. And the last but powerful functionality was the saving for later functionality that SharePoint has built in, which lets the users to save a particular article and revisit them whenever they want. And we've taken that functionality and we've sort of brought it all up for Viva. So that means the users can save a SharePoint article similar to like a Yammer article or a Steams video, and they can revisit that later whenever they want. I think these are some common use cases that sort of addresses the whole Viva Connections piece.
So if we get a balance of the type of content and the interaction that's coming through, and knowing that this is the experiences within the team's mobile experience, so it already has maybe some of its own design principles. When you think of bringing in the engagement piece, possibly even some custom ways that people are bringing in information and that ability to save for later, layered on top of or within teams. Can you describe what some of the user experience principles were, knowing all of that in the way that the mobile feed had to fit in and feel actively a part of teams?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Viva Connections is a product of an intensive collaboration, as you just mentioned, right? And that means that all of us who are building this whole experience need to be on the same page to sort of bring a very cohesive experience across the whole of M365 ecosystem. Having a solid set of principles was super helpful and more than necessary when the project grows of this scale. Let's look at some common 3 principles that sort of define the whole Viva Connection experience. The first principle that we had, which is heavily, so the feed itself is heavily influenced by content. So the content is key. So always ensuring the content the user sees is fresh, it's relevant, and it caters specifically to the users because of the hyper-personalized feed that we have. So that was the primary principle that we put for ourselves. And the second principle was having a homogeneous experience with heterogeneous content type. I can't stress that enough that, in the feed, you're going to have so many different content types flowing in. You have the Yammer content, you have the SharePoint content, you have the videos. They all have their unique characteristics and they have their unique challenges that they bring in. But as an end user who's using the feed has to really feel the experience to be very homogeneous and cohesive. But at the same time, it also highlights intentionally the differences between those endpoints as well. So that was another design principle that we had. And last but not the least, because the whole Viva Connections is going to be sitting inside the M365 ecosystem, we had to respect some of the nuances of those endpoints, and we wanted not to really reinvent those experiences within Viva, but rather to have a cohesive experience when it sits inside the ecosystem.
from at least early design comps that I saw, I knew one of the challenges was going to be to get the internal ecosystem right, not just with our teams, but just with how the products should look like they are coming from one Microsoft. And in addition to that, I know that we've got a pretty strong ecosystem of partners that are also going to be brought into the feed and the ability to do custom work, more like a platform. Sam, maybe I want to ask you just from the where people experience this. We've been talking about Viva Connections from a mobile perspective, but also the broader scope of Teams. Can you take a moment just to walk us through so that people know where the experience is and maybe even for our IT listeners, how to enable it?
Sure, Mark. So we have a Viva Connections mobile app as well as a desktop app. So the Viva Connections desktop app was previously known as the home site app, which is bringing the top level internet site into the Teams directly, and that can be accessed from the Teams app bar itself. Now, the admins can enable it from the Teams admin center itself. So that becomes like a super convenient way to enable it as a first party experience. And then the end users can directly access their internet content and the communications that is going on inside the internet, all directly from their teams. So that's the biggest advantage that is coming with the desktop experience. Similarly, in the mobile, so once it's enabled in desktop, it will show up in mobile as well. So that's why, so the configuration is simplified that way. They don't have to enable different devices for this experience. Now, we have also been working on a SharePoint web part for Viva Connections feed. So that is also something Corpcoms could leverage to show Viva Connections feed into their existing SharePoint sites.
Yeah, I think a lot of what you just said, is the value of incorporated into what they're already leveraging, SharePoint home site, and a lot of the ways that they've already been designing or delivering their corporate communications, how that flows in or how you can bring it in purposely. And then the value of once IT has decided that, yes, this is an experience we want our end users to have, then it's a very easy thing for end users to essentially turn on and start using. And their feed will be very active, with everything that they do and everything that's being pushed towards them. But because we're in such early days with Viva, and I know we're really starting to try to think, what do we do next, or how do we want to refine or work on the experience even more without giving away anything that we haven't yet disclosed? How would you describe what's coming next? How would you qualify what we do continuously for end users from your perspective? And I think to be really clear, when you think about design and user experience, what do we think about next with Viva Connections or in general with your principles?
Right now, our top priority is just to ship the experience that we have built and learn from our customers. So we want to understand what is working, what is not working, so that we can keep improving the experience further. And along the way, we will be constantly exploring delightful new formats or new types of content consumption that will be coming from more and more M365 endpoints. And because feed is a pretty established modality for content consumption, we are just so excited to see that how it's going to evolve for something like a company communication use case across tablets, Surface tablets, mobiles, as well as desktop. And we will try to make it cohesive and simple.
That's great. I just opened up the Teams mobile app. I'm in the feed and I clicked in, to connections to get there. And I can see a summary of activity in SharePoint, some of the conversations in Yammer. I can see some of the news that's being published from what we call MSW news. And I can see things that I've been active on with other people, that it's very oriented towards me, but it's also coming from, the broader push of information from our corporate communications team. And it's very up to date as far as, I know what I've done today and this week, and to see that feed of activity and of course be able to access it on my mobile device. I will tell you, it's really nice to have that at my fingertips without having to go to 5 different places. It's really nicely aggregated for me. So I wanted to give you kind of a real-time kudos. It's really looking nice. And it's been a pleasure hearing a little bit more about what's gone on behind the Viva Connections design experience.
Thank you, Mark. We are glad you're liking the experience. And we would also request you to send feedback, and that will help us to keep making this product better.
Absolutely. I will encourage that 100%, because if you like the product and there's something that you want a little bit different or have an idea, the SharePoint team historically, which is a lot of the people now behind Viva, are always very responsive, and certainly in the cloud and on these apps, the way that we can update it is a lot more real time than in the past. So I appreciate you saying that and echo that into our audience, that if you've got an idea or feedback, the team always loves to hear it. But again, Sam and Raagul, thank you very much for being on the IntroZone.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks for having us, Mark. It was great talking to you.
It's always nice to hear from my peers, and I hope just giving you a window into the work, the design, the care, and really the purpose that goes into designing these experiences. Something like Viva Connections has essentially been around for a while with modern SharePoint, but it's just taking that next step into making it a great experience, fitting it in with Teams so it feels natural, and giving you the capabilities to really extend your corporate communications experience for everybody, keeping them in the flow of work. Speaking of work, let us move to teamwork. First up, when you think about working with your one-to-one, one-to-few peers across whatever it is you're doing, we'll start with something that is really a way to set up your site that makes it a better experience, or it is in the way that you want to set up the site. Our first item is that the SharePoint navigation within team sites can now be switched from either horizontal or vertical. This gives the ability for team site owners to be able to switch the navigation orientation to achieve a different look and feel, to be more in charge with their layout and the alignment styles. I think the more choice, the merrier, and merrier navigation makes the heart of a team site grow fonder. You can just hear the lub-dub when you make that navigation choice. I know you're going to like it. I know you're going to love having this option. And always, it's one of those things we've heard this feedback for a while. Give us the option to have either left nav or top nav. And now you can, especially in team sites, move to that top nav experience and really open up how you use the full page for your teamwork. Next, you can now share a list as a link. Now, if you're asking yourself, this one sounds like it's been out there already, at least for a while, that ability to share a list, you are right. What this past month brought is a more powerful means of sharing lists, aka more options of how you share. This elevates the ability closer to what you can do with files and folders, viewing, editing, various levels of how you can share and who you can share to, and the ability to establish defaults. The same admin controls that apply to sharing files and folders also now apply to lists and list items. Always a plus for training and use when you think about how people are engaging across Microsoft 365, across different content types. And it's an extension of our primary design goal, which is no matter whether you share a document, a video, a folder, a site, and now a list or a list item, you get the same great, robust sharing experience to share as you intend. Sharing is caring. Common, consistent sharing experiences, we think, is caring a lot. And let us know how you like it. Let us know what you think of it, and always let us know what we can do better. The last item in teamwork, Microsoft Lists now has applied filters. As you apply and adjust filters to narrow or expand what appears in the current list view, you'll now see which filters have been applied, and you can remove them without going back into the column filter pane. You can now do this right in the top left portion of your list. It's really nice to see what filters have been applied, and with one click, remove and adjust. It's a nice design and saves you time as you maneuver through your information in the way that you prefer, in a way that feels a lot more natural and cohesive and quicker. All right, it is time to move to related news, related technology closely related to OneDrive and SharePoint. First up, Planner has two new capabilities that I want to cover. First, recommended plans. You can now discover plans that are relevant to your work. This surfaces new plans that include tasks that have been assigned to you but that you might not have opened yet. Recommended plans can be found in the Planner hub between recent and all, or in the left pane between favorites and recent. Very easy to see things that are recommended and relevant to you. your plans. The second feature is now you can move your tasks to any plan. Great for organizing. Until recently, you could only move tasks between plans in the same team, making it harder to coordinate tasks across teams. With this new feature, this adjustment, you can now move tasks to any plan that you're a member of that's right across teams, or in other words, across Microsoft 365 groups. To move a task in the Planner web app experience, tap the ellipses that will appear in the upper right corner when hovering over a task and select Move Task. That's it. It gets moved, it gets put into the right place, and you keep on tracking your work until completion. In addition to the recent Whiteboard updates to provide a new unified experience across all devices, I wanted to highlight one update that's close to home. All new whiteboards will now be created in the OneDrive of the person who starts or creates the whiteboard. This applies to whiteboards created in the Whiteboard standalone apps and in Microsoft Teams. All previously created boards will remain in Azure and can continue to be used edited by end users. With your whiteboards in OneDrive, you can create, share, discover, and manage them as easily and as consistently as any Office document. Microsoft 365 has been making loads of progress for these kinds of unified experiences, like I previously mentioned about the sharing experience and files experiences that have been rolling out for a while now across Microsoft 365. Whiteboard, being a pretty cool content type, now joins the bunch in the common content service with great experiences all around for that collaborative teamwork. All right, two more related technologies. Second to last, but it's a really nice one. In Microsoft Teams, you can now reply to a specific message. This was something you had to go to the mobile app to do, but it's now coming to the desktop experience. When chatting in Teams, you'll be able to reply to a specific message. The original message will be quoted in the reply text box, helping everyone in the chat understand the message's context more easily. Quoted replies will be available in one-on-one, group, and meeting chats. This is one of those features that I tell you, when you use it, people ask, how did you do that? Especially if you've been using Teams for a while. You haven't been able to do it. But once you are able to and people see it, it's really nice to keep the comments connected for that really great contextual information. With a simple right click, that's all it takes. You will win productivity points by using this one for sure. Now, this last one is pretty closely related, and it is a Yammer feature. Yammer now has nested replies. Nested replies and threaded conversations help users organize, follow, and contribute more effectively, and it's been one of those top customer requests ever since the new Yammer landed last year. This update improves the entire conversation experience, and like I mentioned for Teams, keeps things in context. And you will get more productivity points. Bing, 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 bing. Just feel those points coming in every time you do a reply in line or you nest a reply. Great experiences, and again, really helps to keep the conversation intact. It's time to close your eyes and visualize the future. The future that is just around the corner in our calendar's eye. Here are two teasers for what's coming in October 2021. Teaser number 1. This one deserves a light drum roll. SharePoint Hub-to-Hub Site Association. Need I say more? Search the Twitter sphere and you will see that this one I think people are really excited about and anxiously waiting for, and I'm very pleased to say, coming soon. Teaser number 2. Microsoft Lists, the calendar view comes to the Lists web part. This is a huge advancement in how you can represent your list information on a SharePoint page or a news article in a calendar format. It looks great, it's super useful, and I think I'm just going to save and tell you a little bit more next month. That is it with this month's Peek Ahead. We'll share more details and other updates within the full spooky SharePoint Roadmap Pitstop October 2021 edition. Next month. We have added a lot of learn more links per feature, plus a list of important resources in the show notes and in the corresponding blog post on the Microsoft Tech Community published to the SharePoint Community blog. I hope you've enjoyed this roadmap pit stop. Time to pump the brakes, relax, and know that you are all caught up. Please send us your thoughts and comments to theinterzone@microsoft.com. We're here to put our and your best change management foot forward. Thank you for taking that step with us today and into the cloud month after month. Until the haunts of October are upon us, this is Mark Cashman saying it's okay to eat hallowed candy early on the early tricks of the roadmap ahead.